Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode. I am Michael Petrow, and joining me on the show is actor, director, playwright, and intimacy coordinator Sharon Bajer. I found Sharon in a news article on Film Training Manitoba's website about intimacy coordinators and was like, must know more. I'm glad I reached out to her. She was very cordial in answering all my questions and a wealth of knowledge and teaching a Dumbo like me about this new position. And after finding out about what an intimacy coordinator does, two things will happen. One, you'll wonder why it took so long to make this position. And two, you'll never look at a movie the same way because you'll be like, oh, yeah, right. Like it adds a depth of realness that actually makes you think. And that to me, that's fun. So that's who's on the show. I got some information for you guys if you want to know more about what she does and if you're interested in talking to her. All of her information and contact info will be on the show notes, at the bottom of this episode for you. That's it. That's all for you people who've been around before. Head on into the theater, metaphorical theater because we're not allowed in movie theaters. It's the best I got. And to you new people, thanks for pressing play. It was super cool of you. If you want to know more, head to thereeldebaters.ca after the show. Check out some of our back catalog. There's a lot there. It's not all, it doesn't flow congruently, but it is great. It does tell story inside of it. So you guys can get to know us better by doing that. If you want to email us, it's thereeldebaters@gmail.com. And if you want to follow us on social media, it's at Reel Debaters. If you want to support the show at all, you can throw some pocket change at us. The max is like $5. If there's any more than that, y'all crazy. And if you donate to the show, we will try to do something on your behalf in return. There's a little bit of a list there for you to check out. And then if you want to buy stuff, to the first person who buys a Reel Debater skateboard deck, proof of purchase, email to thereeldebaters@gmail.com. Rob from the show, Rob Strachan, will certify that, and then you will get to help produce an episode with us and dedicate it to whoever you like, because we know that matters. No, seriously. First person to buy a skateboard deck gets to give us an idea, and then we'll give you some credit. And then tell us who you want to dedicate the episode to, and we'll be like, this is to Wanda. Fried green tomatoes, anybody? Anyways, so reeldebaters@gmail.com, reeldebaters.ca, and at Reel Debaters, all spelled REEL, to our top 10 listeners, our top 10 places that listen to us. First of all, let's go south of the border to San Jose, Oakland, Cedar Grove, Southington, and Ashburn. Again, thank you to all our friends in America. These are just the 5 places that are doing heavy lifting and shouting the words. The Reel Debaters are awesome, or in some fashion like that. And then to our top 5 Canadian friends, a hometown of Winnipeg coming in number 1, Vancouver following in second, Nanaimo, Toronto, and Richmond rounding off the top 3. These are the 10 places that are consecutive. So thank you very much for creating some sort of base. And second to that, it means the world to us that all of you listen, but these are just the places that are chatting us up. So maybe one day you'll get to go off into the world and be like, I made that list, and it won't matter. But thank you if you do. Anyways, I will stop rambling. I'll give you Sharon Bajer, and I'll cue that reel, and you enjoy the show.
Let's tidy up this tangle of film by putting it on a reel. Here is a motion picture film, 1,000 feet, 16,000 separate photographs.
Welcome, everybody, to the official space section of the chart.
What's the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Sir, you're out of order.
Out of order. I show you out of order.
Nope.
All right, Trent. Thank you so much for joining me in the living room today. In the studio, actually. I'm in my new house. So
Great.
New house. I've been telling everybody who's been listening, new house meant new studio, and new studio has been christened by Sharon Bajer. Is that how you say it? Am I saying it right?
I think it's a Polish name. No, I know it is because it's my name, but it's you pronounce it Bayer,
Okay.
but I've been going by Bajer, so I like to say Major Bajer.
Major Bajer. I like that. My last name is Petrow, so I like nicknames because
Yeah.
I get Petrow points all the time.
Great.
I think I'd be annoyed with it, but it actually still has some charm. Anyways, so Sharon Bajer, Major Bajer, has graciously joined us in the studio, and we're going to talk about a lot today. We're specifically going to get into her position as an intimacy coordinator. That was the original not a lot of people know about it. It's very young, and I wanted to put some attention on it because I think it's absolutely great what you guys are doing.
Great.
Guys and gals, mostly gals though, from my limited research, which
It's
is
both. It's both, but yeah. Currently, it's mostly women. Yeah.
and it should stay that way. We'll get into that. So, but we can't find out who you are as a person and what you do now unless we find out who you are before you got here. So I want to go into act 1 of our 2-act play here and get some backdrop on you and find out what bit you when it came to the performing arts. So we were talking before our Zoom call dropped, and you had mentioned that it was musicals. We were talking about Rocky Horror Picture Show. That was kind of the tip-off point.
Well, I think I was talking about watching a lot of TV when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And being kind of obsessed with Carol Burnett and the variety shows, Sonny and Cher. There were so many of them. They looked so fun. But yeah, they all had a musical theater element to it. So when I got to high school, as one does, you audition for musicals. And so, yeah, I kind of did that through high school, and they got a tiny little scholarship to attend a theater school, which I had no idea what that would be or what school to go to.
Yeah.
And my drama teacher at the time sent me to, so this is in BC, he sent me to a school called Studio 58, which is, it's like a professional acting program in a college.
Okay.
Yeah. So you do get a college degree, but it's kind of considered like the one of the best places to go. You had to audition to get in, and they only accepted 15 people a year, and they could kick you out at any time. It was hardcore.
This is school, not military camp?
It was very similar. But yes, this was drama school, acting school. Yeah.
Can I ask, what was there any preparation they gave you for auditioning for something that would teach you how to be better at auditioning? Like, that seems like, I get that they want to weed out who would and wouldn't fit the course, but at the same time, like, auditioning off the bench, that seems a little like, what were the requirements, I guess?
Oh, well, the requirements were, I think they just sent us a couple of monologues that we could choose from.
Okay.
And we had to do like something from Shakespeare and some modern monologue. And of course, I think I was 17 when I auditioned. I had no idea. I had never really auditioned for anything. I did everything wrong, apparently. They do give you some feedback in the end, about what you did wrong. Yeah. You did not speak to your acting partners. You did your Shakespeare with a British accent. Why did you do that? You brought props and set up little flowers everywhere for your Ophelia speech. That was totally ridiculous. So really, in a way, you go into these things in a completely naive type of way. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It was a really intense, solid 3 years of deconstructing your personality. And it was hard. Yeah, it was very hard work.
Do you remember what your monologue was that got you in?
Yeah, I think it was, this is the one I remember anyway. It was Ophelia's mad speech. Ophelia from Hamlet, when she's talking about all of the different flowers that she's picking, and I brought in some plastic flowers, and I think I probably messed my hair up so I looked crazy and spoke in a British accent. I don't know why they let me in. Maybe they're desperate.
I think that's why they let you in. I think you were like balls to the wall. Let's do it, right? Get method here. Watch out, Jen.
Yeah, I've always been brave, and I think that's they tell you right away when theater school starts, like day one, if you can do anything else, do not do this, because it's a very hard profession, especially for women. It's going to be really cutthroat and difficult road to go down. And I said, great, that's for me.
Yeah, it takes a personality type, and requirement number one, I think, is brave. Brave more than thick skin. I think you got to know how to get out of your head. I don't know anything about auditioning.
Yeah.
Job
You
interview.
don't want to have a thick skin because you want to be it's like learning how to show your vulnerability, learning how to show your soul is really what theater school teaches you. And that's, it's a hard thing to do.
In front of a live audience.
Yeah, in front of a live audience. But one thing that Studio 58 did for me, that we were kind of a test group,
Yeah.
our class of 15, and they wanted to see if actors could be encouraged to write. And so that was one of our main assignments when I was in the second year was to write a one-person show. And we had to write it ourselves. We had to come up with the idea. We got help, but then we had to present it to the school, the whole, all, I think there were like 45 people in my faculty. We had to present them at the end of the term, which was very scary.
Yeah.
And some people, and now I think they've liked that so much, getting actors to write, that they've kept that they've kept that portion of the training, and it's been really great for me because there isn't always acting work, and it's always given me kind of a focus when I've had time between gigs. We say, so you can still be creative. If you're a theater actor, you need a theater and an audience and everything to actually do your work. You can't just sort of walk around your house acting or, it feels kind of ridiculous. But you can write anywhere. And I really gravitated towards that. So when I first started out, we'll say 30 years ago, let's say that, I was always writing. I wrote a lot of stuff for myself to perform at first. And I came to Winnipeg shortly after graduating from theater school. And I have always written. So I've just sort of done the two things in tandem my whole career.
I've noticed that a gaffer might also want to be a director or has directed.
Yeah.
I've noticed an actor also be a director. And now you're telling me about an actor who also learned how to write. And
Yes.
it seems that there's this running theme of limiting yourself in this industry to only be a one-trick pony. And I mean, you can do that. You can do that in any industry. It's not specific to this, but it also seems that it's like, this is the industry where you get to play and write and create. So why would you just stop at, okay, you want to get good at your craft, but have a couple of, like it sounds like it was a great way to expand your career with this incubator that they put into this school.
Yeah, I think, I think that if you want to have a career in performing arts or in any way, I think the key is to diversify your skills. So, and especially coming to a smaller place, like coming from Vancouver to Winnipeg, eventually I knew I was going to be staying here for a long time. And so there really isn't enough acting work, or there wasn't then, to sustain a whole career. So being able to write also allowed me to get my work outside of Winnipeg, which is totally. In an easier way. And then I can't remember when I started acting in movies, but when I first moved to Winnipeg, the film industry was, I guess it had been going for a while, but it wasn't as built up as it is now. So there'd be like, one or two movies a year. So it just seemed like a natural thing that, most theater artists would audition for films because we were actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I was like, in learning all this, I was like, oh, this is great. Cause this is like, acting's acting. I don't care what room you're in, directing's directing, writing's writing. It's by the quality, not by the location. I mean, some of the greatest plays I've ever seen are through Fringe, and they're in the back alley somewhere in Winnipeg, right? Like that. So it like you say, you can write anywhere. You can perform it anywhere too. But what brought you to Winnipeg? Was it it wasn't obviously the industry, but did work bring you here, or were you like, I just want to go east and see what I can find? And
Well, I had grown up in BC and I had never really been east of Alberta.
okay,
And I
over
was
the far away.
so far away. I had been talking to one of my teachers was a director, and he was coming out to do a show at Manitoba Theatre for Young People, which at the time was called Actors Showcase, and asked if I wanted to do a musical clown show that toured in northern Manitoba. And of course, I said, "Yeah, I'm in." Get me a coat. I need a coat, apparently.
Yeah, you need ski pants too.
I was quite a shocker. You know, I think we went as far as Gillam. I think was the most north we went in the middle of winter.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
That's the north. Like you are Jon Snow in the north. Like Churchill's right next door. So wow, I have an affinity for clowns. My uncle is a Shiner, and I'm going to tell you right now. I've never told this on the show before because I've never had a reason to talk about it. My uncle drove while he was still an active clown. He drove the clown car at the Shrine Circus.
No way. Amazing.
So I spent my youth every year for a week hanging out with clowns while they were getting ready to go on stage at the old barn in Winnipeg Arena. So clowns to me are fun. Everybody else is scared of them, but I think traveling clown show to Gillam, Manitoba, that's a good time.
They need some clowns. Keeps you warm.
Okay, so MTYP,
yeah,
traveling clown show, and you're like, okay, cool, and you came here, and then what made you stay?
Oh, well, I auditioned for another show, another musical, a country and western musical based on Othello, if you can imagine.
More Shakespeare,
but with no Shakespeare. It was the band was Humphrey and the Dump Trucks.
That's the name for.
Anyway, so I did this, and it was the very first show at a theater called Prairie Theater Exchange. That was just they just got their new home in Portage Place Mall, and we were going to be in the very first, I think, first season. I think we were the last show of the first season in that up and coming mall. So that was really cool. And then in that show, I met, of course, I got together with the musical director. Daniel Kulak is his name, and we have two wonderful children. And we have since parted ways, but I also not only I fell in love with not only the theater community, but I realized what an incredible music community was here. And he was really involved in the folk music scene, and I just saw that Winnipeg could be a place to put down roots and have a really wonderful life. I think at that point I didn't even think about the career too much. I thought about more the people in the place, and then tried to figure out how to make a living with telling stories while staying here. And so hence the diversification of my skills, and being a writer, being an actor in theater, being a director in theater, and working in film. Yeah, it's all part of the same. It's all part of a similar skill set. We can talk more about that later, but it's essentially storytelling, right?
Yeah, no, boundaries, whatever. Like, I don't care where you are. If you can make me forget that I'm sitting on my couch, you're telling a really good story. And where I'm sitting.
Yes, and that was the other thing too, that growing up in BC, it was all about, being outside and the mountains and the sports, and on a good weekend, you'd have 30 people sitting inside a theater, and here I really got the feeling that audiences needed stories. So
we need stories on prairies. Come entertain us, please.
So many. You felt like you were really, that it was an important thing to do, that it was a noble thing to do. You could feel like that art was important. And I hadn't felt that in BC, I don't think. I hadn't felt that importance and value on stories and art as much as I had having moved here. So
that's really great that you saw it from that perspective instead of, just a you know, you're self-sacrificing in that sense. You're like, I will come here and tell my stories to a place that I feel my stories are heard because they don't have these stories here. I think that's really cool. Instead of just like the spotlight's on you and it's about you, it's you're trying to entertain us, and that's all we want. Is we want good stories.
Yes, yeah. And you want people to care.
Yeah, I love walking. I love Christopher Walken, but I love walking out of a movie. And like, I miss so much the parking lot 20-minute debrief of
Mm,
how we all saw things differently. And I mean, it's Avengers Endgame, whatever. It's popcorn, but like how we all were affected differently and how we all had a good time, right? And
yeah.
you don't get that anymore with the vid. And I mean, it'll come back. We all know it'll come back, but it just, you're right. Like, and the theater, I I mean, I have a very loud, over the top animated personality, which is why I think I was like, you should be in musical theater because it just played well. And I remember having so much fun on that stage and acting fun and stage makeup and tights and just so much, like so many different weird things. And we're all in different cliques, but we're all telling a story together. So much fun.
Yeah.
But I love being in the audience of a play way more than I ever liked being on stage. And I'm just curious, for somebody who's written plays, you have a resume. Oh my God. I felt I wanted to try to take notes, but I was like, I'm just going to ask her questions
Yeah,
because
yeah, no, okay.
so much here. But what is it about the theater that's different from the screen? And obvious reasons, take the environment out of it, but
Mhm.
is it palpable? Is it that the environment, you can taste it, versus the screen, which is kind of, it's effects, right? It's made more, where the
Yeah.
theater is what it is.
Well, I've come to have a great appreciation for film, and especially now because the writing, well, film and television, the writing is so incredible, and the where series can take you now is so amazing. But um, I think I think for me, the theater was always the place where you felt the immediate connection to people. When you're telling a story, it's not just laughter. It's actually hearing a group of people listening and taking them on a journey is just it's just something that's hard to describe. And I guess if being in an audience, you feel it too. And it's something we're all deprived of right now because we can't all be in a group experiencing a story or a feeling together, being moved together, and it's just, I think it's something that humans crave. And when you're acting or when you're on stage in that theater, you feel more connected to being present than you do when you're alone. I mean, that's what I think about all the time in the pandemic. With film, it's different. You almost can't compare the two experiences. Acting on camera is very, very different. Of course, you have a lot of people around, all focused on their job, but they're not focused on going on the story journey with you.
Okay.
And as a performer, you'll never feel that unless you're sitting within the audience of a film that you did, hearing the audience go through the experience with you.
It's a shared event in the theater where it's a viewed experience.
Yes, and every single time it's different. And it's different because the audience is different every time.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I saw Aaron Sorkin's A Few Good Men,
Yeah.
and hearing "You Can't Handle the Truth" in a room. Jack Nicholson can say it 1,000 times and I will always smile, but it felt different there that one time. And I think it's because you can feel the venom and the anger behind the captain, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that's just my little theater experience. What do you like more? Actually, I shouldn't say what do you like more. What do you find you're gravitating towards more, like in regards to? Actually, I'll double down on this.
Okay.
Where do you feel the most creative, acting or writing?
That is a very interesting question. Every time and I'll throw directing in there too, because um, about 10 years ago, I then wanted to become a director because I thought that would be everything. You're kind of in charge of the whole vision of something, and I really like collaborating with people, and I felt like that's a natural progression to go from being an actor to being a director. So I went to Stratford, and I did a 2-year directing program there.
Just for
And
anyone that doesn't know, Stratford, I know is a very big theater school, but what is Stratford for the?
oh, Stratford, yeah, it's not a theater school. It's a big
I don't know.
it's a big festival.
Oh,
Uh,
okay,
it-
yes.
yeah,
Based on Stratford on Avonlea, which is Shakespeare's home. Is that where he's from?
Stratford upon Avon is in England. Now this is the Ontario version.
Okay.
It was started in the 50s. Christopher Plummer was there actually in one of my seasons.
Least we forget the amazing Canadian Christopher Plummer.
Oh, so amazing, so amazing. Um, so anyway, it's Canada's biggest theater festival.
Okay.
And its focus had always been on it was on Shakespeare for a long time. It's now um, it's now a lot of different things, but they do huge musicals there, huge productions. I mean, not now because of the pandemic, but it's just a wonderful place. And I thought, if I'm gonna learn how to be a director, I want to learn how to direct big.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I went there and learned how to direct big.
What's that mean? How do we define direct big?
Oh gosh, like how many lights can you think of?
Like a 20K or something, like just big lighting, big. Yeah, okay. I know.
Yeah, big lighting, big fly galleries, 25 people on stage, um,
Chorus line.
working with choreographers and fight directors and the movement coaches and you name it. It's handmade shoes, real hair wigs. It's just
Wow.
a huge
perfect.
budget. It's really a fantastic place. I loved being there. It was so
Doesn't
neat.
sound like a place. It sounds like a better reality.
It's a better, well, yeah, it can be. It can be. It's it's like any place. It's like a little society. It's got its own politics involved, and
Everything, yeah. That takes the fun out of it all.
yeah, well, I had a great time as someone who was there just for a couple of years to learn I could ask as many questions as I wanted. Got lots of mentorship. It was so fun. So yeah, that was about 10 years ago. And then really since then, I had been doing kind of all three things pretty much equally. So acting, writing, and directing in pretty much equal measure. And what I found was that each thing actually teaches you something about the other. So if I'm directing actors and I've just done a show as an actor, I know how vulnerable an actor is. I know how to speak to them and how to help them.
Okay.
And as a writer, you're really trying to make sure that you honor the words of the playwright when you're directing something and when you're acting. It all kind of really it's all kind of one thing. You're just wearing different hats,
Yes, I've heard that many times. But it's also knowing who else is wearing the same hat as you, like you mentioned. Like what an actor might be feeling in a scene. What a writer might be trying to convey as an actor, and as a director, what you're trying to tell the story of the writer and pull the performance out of the actor. So yeah, it's like this perfect little triangle, I guess, of nice it's like very Miyagi.
It's very Miyagi. Oh, I love that reference. Yes. We're big fans of that series here.
Oh, Shauna just started watching it the other night. I was like,
Yeah.
come on, let's watch this together. It's gonna be a good time. No, we have marital issues when it comes to the TV. That's our biggest problem. Is please watch with me, and she won't. That's fine. I'm learning through other podcasts and my own therapy. I'm just kidding. That doesn't matter, right? But She just started watching it the other night, and I was like, I will stop watching where I am so that you can catch up and we can enjoy Johnny and Daniel and everybody else at the same time together, because it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
No, it's made for that is one of the perfect cases of writers knowing what we want.
Yeah.
And knowing
100%.
how to just give you like a comic book, how they have a splash page, like both pages are carrying the same image. That's what they're doing with Karate Kid. They're just like, here's some flashbacks, here's some Miyagi, here's Johnny and Daniel still getting in each other's faces 20 years later. Like, it's all things that you want, and you're like, yes, more Karate Kid, more crane kick.
So good.
I'm so glad you like that. That just changes everything all of a
Oh, I
sudden.
love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what are some of your before we get into what we're here to talk about? What are some of your favorite works of writing and acting and directing that you've done? You've done all three. So what off the top of your head, like what are some of your greatest hits?
Well, I think I worked on. There was one summer. There's a theater company that I work for in Nova Scotia called Festival Antigonish, and they're a small rep meaning they do with the same cast a number of plays over the summer. And I had been going back there. Gosh, I've been like 5 or 6 times, and there was one year where they had done. I directed a play. I directed a comedy. It was called Run for Your Wife. They love to do British comedies there, which I love to direct because they're so much fun. And then I was then in one of the other shows was a play that I had written called Burn in Love. And then I was writing another show. So I was there as a writer and a director. And it was just, I think I would consider that, kind of the best thing. You're sitting in one room writing a show while you're listening to another one of your shows being directed. And then the next day directing something really fun. So
that's crazy meta.
Yeah, that was so great. And I guess 2 summers ago now at Rainbow Stage, I directed sort of a reimagined version of Danny Shore and Rick Chafe's musical Strike.
Yes, Strike.
Yeah.
Winnipeg. I was at the premiere of the movie.
Oh, at the stand. Yeah. So I think of them as 2 different things because the play is a little bit different than the movie.
Yeah, they're same story told 2 different ways. Would that be a great way to it's about the strike, essentially?
Yeah. It's the same story told 2 different ways. And in the Rainbow Stage production, we had a lot of we had all the actors playing instruments, including 3 kids who played newsies, and it was really challenging staging the whole thing, but I was very proud of it, and the fact that it was happening during the all of the strike activities, it had a really special feel to it, and my husband Carson and I were both in the original production many years ago. So
okay. So it comes back tenfold. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was great. And I don't know. I've played there's a lot of I have done, I don't know how many shows at MTC, probably 20 at Manitoba Theatre Centre. Yep. The Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre now. And a highlight was a play called August Osage County.
I've heard of it. I should. Yeah, that's a big production.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a big award-winning play. I think it's considered one of the best plays of the last 25 years.
Make a movie of it, and is Clint Eastwood in it?
They did make a movie of it. A lot of people were in it. I don't think Clint Eastwood was in it, but
or Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. Yes, I can see how you get the 2 confused.
Yeah, one's a racist who screams at chairs, and the other one's a fantastic actress. I don't know how I did that.
It was the fantastic actress person. Yeah. It's just a great play. It's so fantastic. It's just an American play about a very, very dysfunctional family.
You have this look that comes across your face when you're talking about being in plays that with my limited experience, because we really have you're actually the first actor we've had a chance to speak.
Oh, I'm honored.
So I am too, because I have been working up, trying to talk to people about acting and storytelling and getting into characters and stuff. So I'm super happy that this is happening. Let's step back into what we're talking about for a second. But with the look on your face that I'm talking about, it just looks like it's your favorite place to be, because is it never, because I remember the 2 musicals I did. One of the things that I remember vividly, no 2 shows are alike. No 2 performances will ever have the same feel, timing, whatever, because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. But to do it maybe over and over again, like, you want to do it perfectly, but do you want to also have a little bit of that, room for chaos and impromptu lines, maybe, like just that little extra
Yeah.
portion?
It's like, gosh, when it's really cooking and you really feel like you're on your A game, I imagine it's probably a similar feeling to playing sports or something. Like you have to be so in tune to your acting partners and so in tune to what's happening in the audience. And I think it's just feeling on your A game, and especially when, when anybody does something that they love to do, and they're doing it in a way where they feel like they're experiencing every little drip of everything that entails. I think there's something about there's a passion there that's super palpable. I was sick I got cancer about 4 years ago, and you were asking me. I think I'm better. I don't know. I did all the treatment and everything. I feel fine.
No, I just love that it's past tense. Like if it's behind you.
Yeah, I feel like it's behind me. But you had asked me, what I like better. Like, do I like writing or acting or directing better?
I don't remember now.
Yeah, it was early in our conversation, and I'm just remembering that now. When you have a disease that can kill you, you do a little soul searching.
Yeah.
And you think, you just think about your life and your career and stuff. And I remember feeling like I never wanted to give up acting. Of the 3 things, I think I realized at that time that I felt the most alive when I was performing. And that has a lot to do with not so much people looking at me, but it's more to do with exactly what I described to you earlier, that being in connection with a large group of people, and there's no more there's a heightened quality about acting when you're acting with a partner, and I consider an audience a partner. So even in a 1-person show, when you're playing with that audience, there's really nothing like it. There's nothing like that experience when it's really going well, or even when it's going badly.
Where to run.
Well, the actors, they always come with, and this is a whole nother podcast. Crazy things that can happen during a run of a show, right? Like there's.
Oh, okay, all right. You've touched on it, so we can't not talk about it for a
All
second.
right. And since we're merging theater and film, okay, this is a good story. So, do you know the movie A Christmas Story?
With
Leg lamp?
Yeah, Fragile.
Fragile? Yeah, the leg lamp. One of my favorite Christmas shows. So when they were doing it at the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre, I got to play the mum.
Yes, I read that on your res. Yes.
Yeah. So I would say, going back, that's a highlight for sure. That was really one of the most fun productions. There were, I think, 8 kids in the show.
Wow.
They were fantastic.
Okay, well, there's Peter. Is it Peter and Georgie?
Yeah.
Names.
Yeah.
And
there are my 2 sons, and then all their friends. The one that sticks his tongue to the wall.
Yeah, him. The bully that he beats up.
Yeah, the bully. The girls. Yeah, there's
that's
quite
like
a
7
few.
or 8 kids. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love doing shows with kids. But anyway, one night, the leg lamp is such a huge iconic part of that story,
Pop culture.
and yeah, and so when in the story, the husband and wife have the fight over the leg lamp being in the electric sex being in the window, right? And she's really embarrassed about it, and she breaks it one night. She's watering a plant, and the narrator says, "I don't know what happened, but we heard a crash," and she denies it. So in the play, there's a leg lamp in the window, and in the blackout, um, one of the stage crew has to come and take the lamp away.
Yeah.
And I come on in the blackout with the broken leg lamp, and the lights come up, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know what happened. Your leg lamp broke." It's a huge part of the story. Anyway, this one night, and this happens, this is nobody's fault really, but they didn't come to take the leg lamp out of the window. And so I'm holding this broken leg lamp and looking in the window going, the story will end. And everything in my brain, I've talked about being a storyteller, thought, this story, it can't go on this way. They can't see two leg lamps, one broken and one not.
You should write out of it.
So I don't even know how I did this. I don't have any memory of doing this. But when the lights came up, I had wrapped myself. I leapt up onto the window and wrapped myself in the curtain. So the curtain was covering the intact leg lamp in the window, and me. And I did the whole scene that way, with the guy playing the narrator standing behind me, seeing exactly what was going on, and the fellow playing my husband thinking my skirt had fallen off. And even though it was terrifying and harrowing, it was so exhilarating, at the afterwards to tell the story is so fun. It's just people don't know, and no one would have known. No audience member would have known. They just thought that's the way it was. But if they had seen both leg lamps, show would be over.
That, and just to bookend that, like, that's you taking care and telling stories and making sure that they're not lost out of the moment, that they get the full experience, the full Monty, so to speak.
Yes.
Like
it's almost life and death stakes, honestly. I know it's just a story, but when
because it's life and death to the value of the ticket purchase, to the experience of the guest, to the review. It's life and death to a lot of things that in real life, then we both know it's just a story, but to the moment, to the experience, it's everything or nothing.
Yes. And I think as the storyteller too, it's just like, no, that can't happen. That's not how it's supposed to go. That's not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, and if you don't take it personally, you obviously aren't, dropping 150% on the floor at the end of the night. And that's the thing about theater performances, is that you go on set for a couple months, you shoot, you're done. You do theater. What's the longest run you've ever done?
I haven't never been in those shows that run for years, but I think probably 2 months.
2 months of the same thing, in matinee, evening, right? Doing it over and over again. Like, you perfect riding a bicycle to the point where you can ride the bicycle without using your feet, right?
There's some show. Sometimes it's 8 shows a week, same show, 2 shows a day. Yeah.
Which, to everybody who's ever come from theater, and I guess this is a great point to transition, because it seems that some of the best are from the theater. Kenneth Branagh, Daniel Day-Lewis, just name a few. I don't know who's got a background in theater for female, so if you would like to educate me, I'm more than happy for you to tell me who's a popular female who's come from.
Oh boy. Well, I think Meryl Streep probably has a background in theater. Yeah. We were talking about her earlier. I think a lot of the British actors, I think you'll find that Olivia Colman probably has a background in theater. She's one of my faves right now.
I'm going to just say that she does, because there's no way she's that wickedly amazing at what she does without having, there's something about you theater folk that just have something that's just, I don't know what it is, but you guys just grab the camera a lot more.
Yeah, well, somewhat, sometimes people like to say, like acting coaches and stuff like to say, oh, theater people are too broad or they're too big on camera. But I like to say that the camera actually just picks up if you're lying.
Yeah, totally.
People are big and animated, and it's just that if you're dishonest, a camera is going to be able to pick, it's so close to you that they're going to be able to pick that up.
Well, and also it's projection, right? You're sometimes you're not. If it's an intimate setting, I would imagine, it's your voice only. So you've got to produce more than what you can fix and post with.
Totally. You're in charge of the editing. You're in charge of the story when you're in the theater.
On the take.
What's that?
You're editing on the take.
Yeah, you're editing it. Yeah, you're really doing that. And then it took me a while to figure out that in film, on movie sets, you're providing the raw footage for someone else to tell the story. So
yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, so you can give beautiful moments. You don't know whether or not that's going to make it into the movie. You don't know whether the lighting was bad on your best take or not. It's it's more controlled and less controlled in a way.
There's apparently a 20-hour cut of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and there's a 6-hour cut of Suicide Squad. Like these people are finding out more and more that didn't know that, movies are usually like 3 and 4 hours if you took everything and put it back to back, because it's just another take. David Fincher, it's probably 12 hours, right? Because the guy does 100 takes a scene.
Yeah.
So, but the condensed down stuff is always the byproduct of the footage you're providing somebody else to tell a different story. You're totally right. Where theater, one shot. You get the 2 hours, you get the 3 acts. That's your window, man. If you don't nail it, there's your life and death.
Yeah, and that's why in theater we rehearse so much, and in movies you do a blocking and then you shoot it usually.
you get that time. So I there's so much more I want to know about you, but for the sake of time, I would rather get into what I would.
Well, this is a good way to transition into talking about intimacy coordination. Well,
let's just start there. What the hell is intimacy coordination? I am so limited on this. I'm like one of the people listening to you, so I'm just going to shut up and let you talk now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So we've been hearing a lot about intimacy coordination recently, largely to do with Bridgerton, I think, and Lizzie Talbot, who's the intimacy coordinator on that show. That show's getting a lot of attention because it has an intimacy coordinator on it, and HBO has now committed to having an intimacy coordinator on everything that they do.
That's awesome.
And I'll just go back to my interest in it, which started, I guess it started in 2000, but 4 years ago, 2017. I was at the Stratford Festival as part of another directing program there, and I went to see a production of a Greek play that had a lot of I guess like simulated orgies in it. I mean, beautifully staged simulated orgies, and the intimacy work, the simulated sex in that scene was so beautifully done. Was extremely moving and theatrical and gorgeous and choreographed. And then I realized that they had something called an intimacy director on that show, and I had never seen that before. I had never seen that title, intimacy director. So I after I got home, I kind of did a little bit of research, and there wasn't much about intimacy directors or intimacy coordinators even 4 years ago. So that's how new, that's kind of how new it is. But I found an organization in the States called Intimacy Directors International, and they were doing a 10-day intensive in Urbana, Illinois. And I signed up because I thought, that's interesting. I don't know what it is. I'm going to go see what it is.
Clowns in northern Manitoba.
Yeah, the clowns in northern Manitoba, exactly. So I went down and I did this 10-day intensive on intimacy direction, and it was taught by three of the founders of this movement, I guess you could call it. One was Alicia Rodis, and she's the one that heads the intimacy coordinators at HBO now. She was doing it then too, but just starting. And another woman named Tanya Sina, who was getting some of the work out in universities all over the States, and Claire Warden, who's been she's been really making a splash with her intimacy direction on Broadway recently. So these were my teachers, and I learned so much. It was mostly how to choreograph simulated sex scenes for the stage. That was the thrust of this 10-day workshop. Haha.
I was trying so hard to keep my pun in.
I know.
I'm glad you're the one who stepped on it. Oh, that's amazing.
And it was so interesting. We talked a lot about the approach that they wanted to have. In terms of consent, mutual consent, this was one of the main things, that the actors are consent to everything that they're doing, because really you're in such a vulnerable position as an actor. You pretty much do what you're gonna do what you're told, and so I love that. I love this consent component. Choreography, communication, and then strategies of communication of how are you going to actually develop this, make it look real, make it look real on stage. And the group was, I think I was the only Canadian there, and there were people from all over the States, and a lot of them had come at it from being stunt directors and coordinators. Some of them had come to the work from being choreographers. Other people were directors. A couple of people were actors. Some people like myself who kind of did a whole bunch of things. And I just sort of basically learned about all that. And then Alicia had did one day on intimacy coordination, and that's what we call the intimacy, the person in charge of the simulated sex, nudity, and any scenes involving intimacy on film and television. Intimacy coordinator. So they wanted to be very specific about, very distinct about those two things. And I think part of that is because in a film, you're not. They would bring the intimacy coordinator on to actually support the vision of the director. So you're actually not the direct, you're not kind of coming in and taking over the scenes of intimacy, but you're sort of helping to make sure that the actors and the director are on the same page, that everything, that nothing's really a surprise when you get to the shoot, that you know what they're going to be wearing, what is the action of the scene, instead of generally they make out on the bed. Like what does that actually mean? Yeah. You plan it ahead of time. You put it in writing ahead of time. You check with the actors ahead of time to make sure that they know what they're being asked to do, what level of nudity they're going to be required to be in. There's quite a lot to the actual job. But what I like about it is that you'd never kind of just say, let's crash this car.
No, you don't.
Here's a car. Here's a couple of actors. Let's just go crash this car. No. So why have we been asking of it? Why have we been asking people to, depict any like sexual assault or sex on screen without having somebody there to help coordinate it, like literally coordinate it and make sure that everybody's on the same page and they feel safe.
as somebody who didn't know this position existed, and then when they found out it did, the next day I watched movies differently.
You did? How so? I'm so curious.
It made me go, it's exactly what you're saying, is that you plan a stunt scene. I think I mentioned this in our emails too, where I'm like, you're not that far outside of the same ballpark as somebody who's teaching Ryan Reynolds how to kick ass on screen.
Yep, you're exactly right.
You're coordinating something. We call them stunt coordinators, and we call them stunt men, stunt women for a reason, right? Someone directs you on how to do it. The director wants it. Coordinators go between actor, stunt person, so on and so forth. Same thing here. But it just was so surprising to me that now that I look at every love scene that I see, I go back and I think, man, how bad was it on set to get this? Now that I have an appreciation for, like I said, limited research, because I just wanted you to teach me.
Yeah.
But I now look back at some of my favorite movies from the 90s and early 2000s, and I just have this feeling of, man, if this had only been here for some of these, we might A, have better quality, but B, also have more realism, right? Like that's the whole purpose of what you're saying. What scene do you want to depict, and do you want to depict it the right way? Because now I see a sexual assault scene and I just go, that's incredibly triggering for somebody. I'm sure it is. And with someone who's an intimacy coordinator, to allow for the direction and understanding and communication to exist now, instead of just the straight ordering, I can only imagine what the leaps and bounds have been for the industry. But yeah, I just, every sex scene now goes, oh, I wonder how uncomfortable they were, or I wonder if they had someone championing for them, or I wonder if there was so much disagreements it ruined the telling of the story. Like it just seemed like it's been a missing piece to that part of the industry for a very long time. And I'm a layman, so you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think this is exactly right. I think what a lot of the things I hear all the time is like, how have we been doing these scenes up to now? When you think about all the content, all of the, exactly like you're saying, like the sexual content that we demand in our television now and films. I mean, it's always actors, right? It's always actors there, and sometimes you might have a wonderful director who feels really confident in putting together scenes like that. But as we know, with the Me Too movement, which is where the formalization of this work kind of came out of, it didn't always work. It wasn't always a safe place for actors. And I was talking about that earlier, how vulnerable actors are. And so to have somebody on set, so I'll just talk about, our role on set, like having somebody there who is not in the power dynamic. You're not responsible for hiring the actor. You're not the director. You're the actor's advocate. So
100%.
if somebody is feeling uncomfortable about anything at any time, you're there. You're that person. Who else was it? It was often, I've done lots of these scenes, and I've been in lots of situations where I've been on, been asked to do things at the last minute, and you don't know who to talk to. The costume person ends up being your person. That's not really their job.
No, they don't teach. No. Why is it the costume person? I feel so bad for all of you.
Yeah, well, people may do, right? Like there's so much that can come up in scenes like that. Dynamics between actors that might need to be navigated. Communication, not knowing in advance, like what the scene is. When you're reading sides, it just says, sometimes it can just say, they make out, it's super hot. So my job would be to find out from the director, what do you envision in plain language? What do you envision super hot? What is that? What does that mean? What do you want from there? And then you kind of gather the information so that you can write it down.
Well, now we're having a conversation, it seems. Before it was script to camera action, but now we're having a dynamic, a dialogue, a back and forth, whatever you want to call it, where there's, if my body's involved and I'm the actor and there's a director who's demanding a performance from me, it would be nice to converse and not be thrown pages 30 seconds before that say, now your pants are off. And it's like, what, where are we here?
But
Like,
also, how do those pants get off? How do
Yeah.
they think that's going to happen? We have to deconstruct it, right? You have to. Well, Bridgerton's a great example of
I haven't
all of that
treat me like-
costume. You know,
Yeah.
how do you navigate through all that, and how do you make it look good? We're not just advocates for actors, but we're also there. We're also taught techniques, masking techniques, and we learn about what angles, like camera angles. You learn a lot about filmmaking. What's that?
Everybody wants, what angle am I good at, right? Like, but you have to take that into. It's
You
joking
do.
aside. You have to. Brad Crawford, local cinematographer, is a very good friend of mine, and I've talked to him about lighting and having a camera in scenes that you wouldn't normally be looking at a lens through, and he's said close set. It's just who you want there, and he's mentioned actually he was one of the first people who mentioned Intimacy Coordinator for me, because I imagine you're in touch with the director, the cinematographer, the gaffer, costume. Like you're an every person everywhere.
You are. You're usually a team of one on a set, and you communicate with everyone. Yeah, you communicate. It's your job to gather as much information as you can and make sure that everybody's on the same page, so there's no surprises on the day. And an actor wants to act. They don't want to be worried about what's going to be asked of them at the last second. And especially if you can imagine, if you're performing a simulated sex scene or an assault scene or even a birthing scene or having a shower in which you're partially nude, you want to know, how are you going to be taken care of? How many people are going to be in the room? What are they going to be seeing? What angle am I going to be shot at? What am I going to be asked to do? There is a lot of questions, and when you're acting a scene like that, you don't want your head to be filled with those questions, those technical questions. You want your head to be able to engage in the scene and act it, connecting with your partner, knowing, and if you've practiced how to take the clothes off and how do you back up into a bed without falling over? How many steps does it take, to get there? What's the choreography going to be like, say, in a simulated sex scene? What's the exact choreography? What are the, then you can act. Isn't that what we want to see? We want to be emotionally engaged. And we want to make sure that we have a good, good rehearsed groundwork in order to do that.
I have such a different opinion, a more educated one, and a better view of what that, like, you just being a viewer, being somebody on this side of the camera, on this side of the industry, just enjoying the fruits of your labor. You don't think about it because you're up in the story, but then I get these lovely conversations with you guys, and I start thinking, I'm like, yeah, you want to be in the zone. You don't want to be awkward, or if you have to be confident, you don't want to be shy, right? And you've got your personality battling your craft in a scene. That's like you listening to your play while watching a play. Like, it's just too much at once for the brain to compute, and you can't give a performance. And just something I'm going to watch a sex scene later on this week. I know it because I watch like 30 movies a week, and I'm going to see it again. I'm going to be like, wow. And so I'm curious, and I'm sure anybody would be, what's a walkthrough like how do you block, how do you, like, what are the nuts and bolts of a basic, like, I'm just curious, like a basic sex scene, like prep to, we all know what happens on camera, but how do you prep? How do you walk into that? How do you comfort it? How do you nurture it to it being what everybody wants?
Yeah, well, I think that again, because it's so new, Ideally, you would have the intimacy coordinator would have a meeting with all the people that you just mentioned, especially the director and costumes and the first AD usually, and the showrunner, the writer, and you first of all get a sense of what they want the scene to be, what the vision of the scene is, and then really try to get details. And sometimes the director hasn't thought of it yet. They've thought generally about what they want from the scene, but sometimes it's the intimacy coordinator's job to ask specific questions, like how much nudity do you want to see?
This is exactly what I'm getting at. Like, are we? Like,
Yeah.
Doesn't that change the rating of the movie then? Like,
Yeah, sometimes there's parameters. Like, yes, in this, if it's being shot for a certain network, we can't see any frontal nudity, but we could see, a bum. Like, you could see. You get really specific. Yeah, as specific as you can, and then hopefully the director and the act will have a conversation with the actors, and they'll talk about. Again, they'll have that communication about the vision, and then the intimacy coordinator will have a private conversation with the actors. And this is the place where the actor might feel more comfortable in being really specific about what they want to be, what can be seen.
Safe space.
Yeah. So that it's a safe space. It's a safe space to actually get consent, and then we have it all in writing. There's an actual like a document. And then on the day, hopefully, this is what I would love is to have an actual rehearsal with the actors beforehand. That's kind of that's it's so tight on a movie. Sometimes your rehearsal is between the blocking and when you're shooting it. But while they're setting up lights, you can at least go through stuff. Yeah.
I think a sex scene requires more than just like, all right, we're here, then we're here, camera's here, Mark's here. Like this is probably sometimes two people who don't like each other, who may not enjoy working together, but
there's so many things. It could be a minor who has never kissed someone. Have you ever, people don't think of that. Have never kissed anyone in real life, and now they're going to have their first kiss on screen.
Oh my God.
So navigating through that.
I'm having grade 7 nightmares all over again, just thinking about that. Like that would be, and like you've got 6 or 7 people there. I mean, close set probably is the limited amount, but still, first kiss in front of a bunch of people that you don't know what you're doing, but now you got to act like you know what you're doing. Oh man.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, essentially, it's really about making sure that everybody knows what everybody is clear on what's being asked of them, and consenting to it freely. And if they don't, then they can say, they're invited to say where their limitations are, and that can't be that's got to be respected by all the parties. Usually when you're reading a script, if you're an actor and you've read the script, you know what the content is going to be. This is about the details of that content, and how that content is going to be delivered in a way that but that actors feel safe, and nobody's being coerced or exploited. I think it's a really important job, and I feel very passionate about the need for it.
I think it's just like it's one of those things where we're like, how the hell did we get this far? And this and it's the nightmare story, right? It's the Me Too movement that opened up behind the scenes, not to be punny, but the behind the scenes of all of this dark shit that needed the lid to be blown off of it. So I got a question. Do you think we would be having this conversation had the Me Too movement not happened? Like, would we still be 20 years, 30 years out from this? Because this is, I mean, it's one of the great outcomes of the Me Too movement is, okay, if this is where the problem is, then we need to be at ground zero of the problem.
Yeah, that is a very, very good question. People have been doing this work before the Me Too movement in a more grassroots way.
Okay.
I think that actors have been gradually empowering themselves more through the past 10 years for sure. I think the Me Too movement just accelerated the formalization of this work and this role. We're still it's still so new. I mean, there aren't a lot of like really well-trained, experienced intimacy coordinators yet. They're becoming trained. People are.
Sharon, I'm talking to one.
Well, yeah, I'm still new too, but I've done a couple movies and had lots of training, and I still ongoing training. I mean, we're trained in things that you wouldn't think about, like mental health, first aid, trauma, some trauma work. I haven't done a movie like this yet, but what if there was an assault or a assault scene with a child or something, and there's somebody on set who that's really triggering for, not even just the actors, but say a gaffer,
Yeah.
we're trained to have an awareness of the crew as well. Have an awareness of what the stand-ins have to do when they're getting in place for the lighting.
Talk to me about stand-ins for a second. So is it always like, where are the stand-ins in play versus the actors? Are the stand-in, like, what is a stand-in essentially?
Okay, stand-in. Yeah, the stand-ins are really they should resemble the actors in height and skin color, hair color, so that, and they will literally stand or sit in place while after the blocking up and when they're setting up the lights.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a tiring job. And what's that?
It sounds like it. You're waiting along, like you're waiting.
Yeah, you're waiting. It's a really important job because lighting has to light something, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And
no body means, what are we lighting?
Exactly. So a stand-in, stand-ins in an intimacy scene or a simulated sex scene wouldn't have to necessarily do what the actors have to do, but they certainly have to be, probably in close proximity with each other, and at least not, if not go through the motions, go from section to section.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, and then there's also extras too. I've never worked on a movie like this, but there can be sex party scenes, simulated sex party scenes, or a locker room where everyone is walking around naked. Somebody's got to do that. Like, next time you watch a movie, watch the extras.
I'm going to
watch the naked extras, and who looks after them, who talks to them and asks about their comfortability and consent. They're all they're all workers.
I'm sorry I'm so dumbfounded by this. It makes me seem like I'm just a dope, but like, I'm just looking at it through this lens now. You go, yeah, did anybody check with XYZ extra if they were okay? And then they were like, oh, you and they needed that day's pay or what? Like, it's just, if you're creating real world into a real world, that's our little catchphrase. Then naked extras are just like naked people in real life in the background, man. Yeah. It really does go deep.
It really does. It really does. And then, you think about birthing scenes. That's a very vulnerable, intimate thing. Shower scenes.
I love that it stems into not just sex and simulated sex, that it's all the things that are around nudity and intimacy. Like, it's encompassing an intimate moment. 9 times out of 10, it's sex on screen. On average, but it's also incorporating these other triggering, awkward, real life moments that need to be handled with care so that you're not making a snuff film essentially that's triggering somebody into a corner.
Oh yeah, yeah. And nudity is very vulnerable, and also requires, a lot of consent, even when you're not you know, involved with another actor. You're still you still are being filmed by a bunch of people in a room.
So we've covered the why. We've definitely covered the why, because you're the advocate, you're the go-between, you're there to protect the integrity of the actor, to make sure that the integrity of the film is protected as well, so that it's received well and people aren't thinking that this was just somebody wanting to make a awkward scene and do it just distastefully.
Mm.
How do intimacy coordinators beyond that make it better for the actor? Is there anything else we haven't covered in that before we move on, or is that pretty much the?
I think the thing we haven't covered is the artistic component of being an intimacy coordinator.
Okay.
So you can really be a collaborator, much like a stunt coordinator collaborates with a director. The director can give you the vision of what they want, and then the stunt coordinator will make it look great and scary and
Turn it.
yeah. And that's also what we're trained to do as intimacy coordinators. It's not just for the advocacy work and the safety of all involved. It's also to try and help the director if they want or need certain choreography to help the scene, to help realize their vision.
Je ne sais quoi. Le juge.
Yeah, exactly. And it's meant to be a collaborative type of role.
It seems like it. It's like you guys were like, okay, there's this little pocket that we need to start working on in this industry, and it stems from, how do we make this better? How do we all work together? How do we I'm not trying to come in here and be like, no. It's like, no, how do we make the best?
Yeah, we want to make the best. We're not the sex police.
Yeah, no,
we're and I wouldn't, as an artistic person and a person who's, as we've talked about, so driven by stories, I don't think I would be interested in doing this work if there wasn't a collaborative artistic component to it. I don't want to be the director of the movie, but I want the simulated sex and nudity and intimacy to be as wonderful and safe as it can possibly be.
Yeah. No, that's it. It's bleeding off you, Sharon. It's obvious. It really is about the end product for us to enjoy, and I won't have to cover my mother's eyes or her cover mine, because it's tasteful, right? Like, I've seen the prime example would be, I took my mom. I was like, let's go see David Fincher movie, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and those scenes. I don't know if there was an intimacy coordinator when she attacked the guy, but some of those scenes, I was like, I can't even watch this. And it had nothing to do with my mother being in the room. I was like, these are very intense, almost hateful scenes. And I'm just wondering, like, but at the same time, you're saying the artistic approach of it, those are two very bad scenes. The one I'm talking about where she's raped, and then she rapes him and he rapes her. And to say artistic and rape in the same sentence is weird unless we're having this conversation, because I would imagine that even in the most horrible situations, the intimacy has to be cared for, so that, again, we're not falling into the really dark stuff. We're trying to portray a thing and not make it to, like, not fudge it, I guess, is I'm talking
Well,
about.
art is artifice, right? Art is, we're recreating something.
Yeah.
So it should always be that way. And the what makes it art is the fact that it isn't real, that we're recreating it. That's what's so incredible about it. Yeah, and I don't know, I look, I'll probably look at old films before there was intimacy coordinators and wonder how they did certain things and how the actors are feeling. And this is not to say, like, there are some wonderful directors too. Not everybody's a Weinstein, like
You only hear about the Weinsteins. There's
like there are some wonderful sensitive directors. Like, I've worked with, anytime I've had to do intimacy scenes, I've had a really, really wonderful experiences with directors that I truly trust. So if you have a director like that, then you're really there to help support. But if something does go wrong, or if something the communication goes awry, or there's some crazy power dynamics, or it's been kind of the Wild West. And this role is a way of ensuring that going forward, that things can be made in a safe and fun and mutually consenting way. So,
is it? I think it's dumb to ask, but I'm going to ask anyway. Does it make a better product?
I think probably it will make a better product, because the actors can be free to act instead of worrying about what's being seen, because they'll know.
They've given their consent.
They've given their consent. They know.
They
maybe have rehearsed it. They know what the choreography is. I think some directors worry that these scenes are going to look choreographed. But I'll just go back to stunts. Somebody has to plan a stunt. You're not just going to push an actor down the stairs and watch them go. Why should we ask
Can you
people?
use that sound effect, please? Can I record? That'll be.
Why have we been asking actors to, just like do the things that they're, assault that person, or pretend to go from there to there. Just do it. Just go for it.
Daniel Craig, we're going to break your back one more time. We're going to do another take. Like, and then they go, okay. Cause they just like more money, right? More money to damage your body, right? You can say, hey, listen, if you want me to do that, then I'll do it, but it's going to cost you this much. And it should, because you're putting your body in harm's way. But yeah, I as soon as I read this, that was one of the first things that popped in my head. I was like, you're a coordinator, just like stunts are. So like, I would love to see unsung heroes like intimacy coordinators and stunt coordinators start getting the recognition at these silly award shows that you guys deserve, because they're like, oh, it's the actor, oh, it's the director. And yes, it is. It's above the line. It's the front and center stuff. But those Bridgerton scenes that everybody's swooning over with that handsome fucking hunk, I don't know what his name is, but he's everywhere. I feel like he's probably in the curtain behind me, but like, he's handsome. I'm not going to say he's not, because that's just silly. Yeah. But like, if they're so well received and they're so accurate and they're so pleasing to the eye, because really, it's got to be pleasing. I mean, none of us. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
If it looks awkward, you're going to feel awkward. If it looks pleasing, you're going to be smiling, right? Like, that's just human interaction. But you guys need to be like one, because I can only see this picking up steam and it just getting bigger.
I think it is currently picking up steam. Yeah.
And so I had a question, and like I said in the question, I didn't want to get too dramatic because that's not our style, and I just sound funny when I'm being serious. So, but with change comes pushback, right? So you're saying you've worked with directors who've been great about this, but like industry wide, I don't want names, I don't want all the juicy shit, but has it been well received? Just not for the fact that old rich white dudes controlled most of Hollywood for way too long, and male power structure and all that stuff that sucks, but beyond that, has the industry as a whole been like, this is a really good idea, why didn't we do this before?
Yeah, that's hard to answer, because I can't speak for the whole industry. I mean, we're trying our best to do things like this to raise awareness about this role. productions that aren't used to hiring another, it's an extra cost to have an intimacy coordinator.
This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, like just general acceptance of like, hey, this is like when I come to work and there's a new standard operating procedure for something, I'm like, I don't want to learn new shit. My brain's full already. Like, so just.
Or I don't want another cook in the kitchen, Yeah. It feels to me like it feels to me that it's being pretty accepted in Canada. I'm pretty connected to other intimacy coordinators in other centers. If anything, there's starting to become quite a demand on the role. So the woman who I'm training with, or the organization I train with, is called Intimacy Coordinators Canada, and there's 3 certified intimacy coordinators with Intimacy Coordinators Canada. So they're kind of flying all over. And with COVID, I think people are looking at the role a little closer, because actors are, with the double thing of the intimacy, and also with the pandemic, even though there's a lot of COVID protocols on every set, having the intimacy coordinator there as just another way to make sure everybody is being safe. And I think that there's a bit more of a demand right now for intimacy coordinators. But like you say, I don't think we're going to go backwards. I think we're only going to go forwards. And
I'm going to call everybody and scream at them if they don't do this. Like you talk about the artistic aspect, you talk about the safety, like it just checks every box, Sharon. Like it makes.
No, it does. But just like with I'm sure stunt coordinators still, and at the beginning, when you have to lay down the law about a safety issue.
Yeah.
So you can foresee it because of your experience and training tells you that this is a bad idea. You might, or it's not agreed on, or I have, paperwork that says that this actor didn't agree to this. You are going to probably come into times where you're going to have to be that person that says, put the brakes on this because I foresee this going badly. So that is going to be part of the job as well. You're not always going to be the Florence Nightingale of the set. You might be the, I don't know what the equivalent is.
And I mean, like you said, on to the next gig. Every gig is new, a bunch of different people. So it's got to work its way through the industry. I think it's awesome.
And there's every dynamic you can think of, right? Like
there's so many. I was just like, intimacy coordinated for a shower scene. Oh yeah.
Oh, you froze. How is that possible after all this time? Michael? Frozen.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. We're good. Just come off mute.
Sorry. You kind of froze like this.
At least we're back. That's all that matters. And we're so close to finishing. So no big deal. So
okay, great.
Where did you hear me stop?
Boy.
We were in the zone, Sharon. We were right there.
I was in the zone.
Oh, you were.
Stop like this.
Yeah, no, we were talking just about the adapting changes that the industry has.
Yeah, that's right. I think. Yeah, we're talking about the possible pushback. I think I had talked about having to be the person on set that says that's not what was agreed on. That's not safe anymore.
You're not the Florence Nightingale, you said.
Not the Florence Nightingale. And then we laughed, and then you said something, and then you froze.
Yeah, no, I know. This is hey, everybody's putting up with us, and I'm so happy for us. Thanks, guys, for putting up with another episode where Zoom gets in the way of a lovely two amazingly cool people, one more than the other. Her name is Sharon. So, okay, let's tidy this up here because there's some stuff that I wanted to ask you so that people can be aware. If there's an actor out there and they're in a situation, and from the vast amount of knowledge that you've dropped on me today and whoever's going to listen to this, what can an actor do to confirm, to make sure that they're like, What should an actor know now that intimacy coordinators are involved, and what can they know to ask of them, and just be aware of the process if they aren't?
Yeah, well, if you're, I guess I would say, lucky enough to have an intimacy coordinator on a film that you're doing, just know that they're your person, and any questions or anything you want to, they're kind of your confidant. So they're there to make sure that your job goes as well as it possibly can, and that your body and your mind is safe, and you feel like you can act free from worry. It's just a great, I don't know, I think I would have loved to have an intimacy coordinator. I had one actress say, "Where were you when I was 19?" I love that quote. I've been acting a long time, and yeah.
Put that on the back of your business card for being an intimacy coordinator.
Yeah, I think it's a great role. And if you're a young actor and you've only been on set a couple of times, or maybe not at all, the intimacy coordinator is the person who can really, you can ask all the questions to.
What do you love about this so far? What are the hardest parts and the most, like, the payoffs?
Yeah. I think the hardest part has been trying to navigate through the different training and certification programs, because I started with that group in the States, and then they kind of, as with any organization, they have been changing and growing, right? So they kind of grew into a couple of different organizations, and then Canada grew into a couple of different organizations. So I wanted to make sure that I had the right amount of training, and that I was approaching this in the right way. Because when you're setting, when you're starting a new position like this, it's very important how you come off on a set. Like you want to make sure that it's a position that is embraced. So there's a sales pitch aspect to it. You want to make sure you know what you're doing. So just getting the skills, and it's taken a while. It's not an overnight thing. I wouldn't want anybody to think that they could just take a couple of online courses and become an intimacy coordinator. There's a lot involved.
I think you just nailed that, because I barely know you, but you have a great sense of compassion and a big heart, and you love making this process as best as it can be for all involved in collaboration. So I think there's a personality type that's very specific to this, and
yes. And I was telling, if people are still listening from the beginning of the podcast, I think in my personality, I have a bit of a, if it's hard, let's do it, and I think that being a new position on something as stressful as a film set and is a hard position to navigate. I'm sure that I'm going to come up against a lot of challenges as I proceed through this. But I also feel like the history that I come to with it, as a performer and director and writer, I think it's all going to feed. It's kind of all those skills will feed it in some way. I think being older too, I want our workplace to be the best workplace it can be, and this fulfills a lot of things for me too. It makes me really happy when an actor feels happy about what they've done. I have a lot of satisfaction in that.
To be behind someone nailing something, that's like just a little bit of part of that to help them, like,
yeah.
And that's
like a coach. It's like almost like there's a coaching aspect of it too. Yeah,
you're in the game, dude.
Yeah,
we're putting you in, and then they feel comfortable, and then they this metaphor score a touchdown. But you know what I'm saying? Like it all comes to fruition in the end, and that's a beautiful freaking thing. Before I let you go, There's one question I didn't tell you about. It's not a surprise question or anything, but you are a transplant out of BC, but you've lived here long enough that you get the Manitoba status.
Yes.
You don't need that from
Hope
me.
so.
But there is, I referenced this before, Manitoba to me is a little Hollywood. It's growing in so many different ways. The performing arts here, the music industry, everything here is top notch. And it was such a shame that so much shit was put on hold because there's so much emerging talent here. But having been here for so long, being a playwright, being an actor, being a director, and now an intimacy coordinator, what is the greatest thing, or one of the greatest things about working in Manitoba in film?
One of the greatest things about working in Manitoba in film, I think all the film nerds that went into film and who are so dedicated to making movies, and the personalities that we meet, and also meeting, mixing our community with people who come from away. I think that people are always pretty darn impressed with our community here, and we've gone from surprise. Oh, you have crew and actors and people who work in the film industry here, and you have a gas station. Honestly, there was a lot of surprise, 25 years ago, to people coming here and knowing that they're going to work with really professional people.
Yeah, you guys are top drawer. Like you could take the entire province and shake it into LA, and they'd be like, "Yeah, sure, we know what you're doing. Take it over."
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
I'll say it. You all hear about it. Like whenever I read somebody saying that they've just filmed in Manitoba or they work in Manitoba, they all say it's the people, it's the industry itself. Like the industry takes care of itself with film training Manitoba and just all the training and aspects out there. But it always comes down to the people in some way, shape, or form. And you people put up with me asking you to come on my show. So that's why I love you. Besides the fact that you make great shit, that's why I love you people. So,
well, just for anyone listening that has an annoying, film circus outside their window, just please be patient. We'll make a good, we'll make Manitoba proud. We're just so happy that everyone is so patient with us. Yeah.
If you see a film crew outside your window and a bunch of guys standing around on a hot day, go bring them something to drink. They're going to be out there for 16 hours. Okay. If you see film people standing around, they're getting 2 minutes to get their shit straight, and then they got to go right back to it. So, go something to chew on, or, a drink on a hot summer day. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about what the next season. And is there anything that people, if this interests somebody, where they can find out more information? People who don't know about it, who are in film, like what can you point in their direction?
Yeah, there's starting to be quite a bit of information if you just Google intimacy coordinators. But the group in Canada that does that I'm training with is Intimacy Coordinators Canada, and there's a lot of great information on their website. And in the States, it's called IDC, Intimacy Directors and Coordinators, and there is loads of reading material. There's a lot of different links, different resources. There's webinars. There's all kinds of information about this work now. Yeah.
And you send me all that, and I will attach it to this episode on our website.
Okay.
So that anybody who goes there can be like, "Oh, this is what this thing is." We'll do like a little want to know more, click on this link, and then it'll take you to
that would be great. Yeah. And I put some stuff, or I had On Screen Manitoba has created a section for intimacy coordinator on there too. So that also can lead you to places.
On Screen Manitoba, great. Winnipeg Film Group, great. FTM, great. Manitoba Music and Film, great. They're all great. There's so many.
They are seriously great.
It's kind of annoying. It's almost like a Hallmark movie that gets filmed here. But anyways, Sharon, thank you so much.
Seriously. Oh, thanks. It was wonderful to talk to you. Yeah.
Likewise, pleasure's all mine. I like learning stuff. I like talking to film people. Everybody knows this. It's not a secret, but I especially like it when it's designed for the common good, to make this industry better and to tell the better story and make it, because like I say, our taglines were real life meets real life. So if the two blend seamlessly and you can't tell, well done your job.
That's great.
So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is that part of the movie where you get up from your seat, throw your popcorn out. You may still be listening. I hope you are. If you're not, well, that's your problem. You missed a great fucking episode. But if you're new to us and this is your first time and you skipped all the stuff at the beginning, I'm going to catch you here just one time. TheReelDebaters.ca. That's the only place you got to go to learn all of us. That's where you can see Sharon's episode. That's where you can see all the stuff that's going to be attached to that episode, which will probably be out whenever I feel like it. I'll tell you. It'll be out probably in a couple weeks. But point is, ReelDebaters.ca. If you want to see us, talk to us, you can message us. You can email us, reeldebaters@gmail.com, and @ReelDebaters on Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias. That's where you can find us. Sharon, thank you again. Stick around before I let you go, just to brief you on some stuff here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's another Reel Debaters production. Watch all the movies, kids. Have a great day.
Good.